31. G1. I look up from my lunch of hard-boiled eggs and cherry tomatoes. Geoffrey is hurrying toward me, his backpack bouncing on his shoulders. His jacket is unzipped. Underneath, he is wearing a t-shirt displaying the face of Ruth Bader Ginsburg. To my surprise, he puts his arm around me. I wait for a second before shrugging it off. "Are you avoiding me?" he says, playfully. "Why is it so hard to find you these days?" "I just saw you in class," I say, through a mouthful of egg. "Yeah, but I was looking for you after. You disappeared quick." Looking at my lunch, he wrinkles his nose. "That's all you're eating?" "Yeah." "Is this one of those fad diets?" He laughs. "You don't need diet, Jiwon. I think you look perfect. Do you know dieting is a patriarchal tool used to control women? It's not your fault. The institutional sexism propagated through the mainstream media and our societal norms and the capitalistic superstructure as a whole is a form of gender persecution." Remembering my conversation with Alexis, I make a face, annoyed. "I'm not on a diet." He watches as I pick up another egg and bite into it. It's bliss, feeling my teeth cut through the firm jelly-like whites. "By the way, I was driving by that grocery store your mother works at, and I was wondering if you had any suggestions on what I should get. I want to start cooking Korean food, and while I'm there, maybe I can introduce myself to her." I stop mid-chew. "How did you know which grocery store she works at?" I ask, confused. "Did I mention it to you?" "Huh?" Geoffrey cocks his head. "Yeah, you did, remember? We were talking about what our parents did, and I was telling you that my stepdad is a mechanic and that my mom is a nurse." "Right. Anyways," he says, changing the subject, "you keep running away before I can give you your Christmas present." "I told you you didn't have to give me a present," I stammer. The irritation I was feeling disappears, replaced by bashfulness. "I know I didn't have to get you anything, but I wanted to." He rummages through his backpack and pulls out a beautifully wrapped rectangular box, complete with a sage green ribbon. "Here, open it." I take the gift from him and tug at the ribbon until it unravels. Folding it neatly, I tuck it to the side. Geoffrey smiles, amused. "Just tear it open," he urges. "It's too pretty for that." "You're being ridiculous." He snatches it from my hands and rips the paper off with a single pull. Underneath there's a lacquered wooden box painted with tiny cranes and a forest of bamboo. It's lovely. I shake it. It rattles loudly. "What is it?" "Take off the top." I open it excitedly, but when I see what's inside, my stomach plummets. They are chopsticks. Shiny metal chopsticks. The handles painted in a mixture of pastel colors. I blink at them, confused. "What is this?" Geoffrey puffs out his chest. "Aren't they great? I thought of you immediately when I saw them. They're so beautiful and elegantly designed." It was between those and a little porcelain doll that looked exactly like you. But the chopsticks won out in the end, since I know you'll use them every day. What the fuck? My cheeks burn. Geoffrey waits expectantly, his arms outstretched. He's reaching for a hug. I dodge it at the last second, stepping backward. Well, do you like them? Um, my face is stiff and frozen. Why the fuck would you get me chopsticks? What's wrong with you? I keep nodding, as though I am one of Ji-yoon's stupid bobbleheads. Thanks, I guess. The chopsticks are heavy in my hands as I walk into the apartment. I set them down on the counter. My head is spinning from the interaction and the sudden bout of revulsion I feel toward Geoffrey. In the living room, George is sprawled out on the couch. He is fast asleep, his chest rising and falling steadily with every breath. Up, down, up, down. Ji-yoon, Uma, I whisper, tiptoeing through the rooms. Is anyone home? The apartment is silent, and I'm alone with George. It feels like one of my dreams. I stand and watch him. I should go. I don't trust myself around him. At the same time, I can't tear myself away. The late afternoon sun illuminates his face, bathing it in a golden light. I lean in and trace the curve of his eyelids, the delicate veins visible through the paper-thin skin. I touch them gently. He breathes through his mouth. Such, each exhale warm against my chin. Pull his eyelid back. Feel his eye socket. I graze his skin, enthralled at the thought. The sun dips into the horizon, its reflections dance across the white wall behind George's motionless body. The kitchen clock ticks, each sound louder than the last. Soon I can hear nothing else. Tick, tick, tick. Pain blooms in my temples. Tick, tick, tick. Each time I hear it, the ache expands until my body is fully enveloped. My fingers tingle. I lie back on the carpet. The ceiling is dizzyingly, blindingly white. I close my eyes. When I open them moments later, it's dark. The apartment is silent. I grab the side of the couch and hoist myself up. George is still on the couch, and he's snoring, his mouth wide open. A surge of adrenaline rushes through my body. I've been in this dream before. My body moves automatically. I pad into the kitchen. The tiles are shockingly cold beneath my feet. On the edge of the sink there's a paring knife, exactly where Oma left it this morning. A piece of apple skin is stuck to the blade. The apples were on sale at the Korean market. She had purchased too many of them. We are all eating one apple every day until they are gone, she said. I take the knife in my hand and feel the weight of it, the handle smooth in my sweating palm. I imagine slipping it between socket and flesh. I point the knife at George's stomach, his neck. I've never gotten this far in any of my dreams, and now that I'm here, I don't know what to do. I press the blade lightly against his cheek. A pinprick of blood appears. You can end this right now. You can destroy him. I touch him tenderly, fluttering my fingertips over his forehead. But there's a strange feeling, a quiet discomfort that grows as I linger over him. The dream is too vivid. Everything is too clear. The hand holding the knife falls limply to my side. I graze my exposed thigh and gasp. Pain blooms where I've cut myself, right below the hem of my shorts. Is this real or Is it a dream? I can't tell. I can't. But why does my thigh hurt? Why can I feel droplets of blood running down my leg? There's an ugly voice inside my head. It's not real, it hisses. None of this is. Just kill him. Taste his eyes. I want to, more than anything. So what if it's real? I'm shaking so badly that the knife falls out of my hand. It lands on the coffee table with a clatter, and George bolts upright. Huh? His hair is disheveled. His t-shirt rides up on his stomach, revealing his pale paunch and a line of hair that disappears into the elastic waistband of his shorts. JW, is that you? He blinks, adjusting to the darkness. Why are all the lights off? I don't say anything. God, I'm dizzy. He stretches and yawns. It feels like someone's slipping me a sleeping pill or something. The knife is on the table, just a short distance away. He's disoriented and confused, his reaction time slow. The image flashes in my head. George lying on the floor, blood spurting from his neck, empty gaping holes where his eyes should be. In the quiet he follows my gaze to the table. Seeing the knife, he scrambles backward, nearly falling off the sofa. His fear is palpable, and it is delicious. "Uh, JW?" he says, his voice quivering. "What's with the knife? Why are you standing there like that?" The temptation lingers, but I can't hurt George. I can't. He's going to marry my mother. He's going to be my stepfather. Thinking about it makes bile rise in my throat. I clear my throat. I didn't mean to startle you. I was trying to wake you up. I was cutting up some fruit because I was hungry, and I was checking to see if you wanted some, too. The lie slips from my tongue easily, as though it's the truth. I bend over and pick up the knife, and show him the apple peel stuck to the blade. His shoulders sag with relief, and he laughs. There's a drop of blood trickling down his cheek from where I cut him. He still hasn't noticed. God, I thought I was in a nightmare. I didn't mean to scare you. You scare me? He scoffs. What's there to be afraid of? Little Oriental girls are nothing to worry about. Oriental? What am I, a rug? You young kids get offended so easily, and at the silliest things. Back when I was a child, Asian and Oriental had the same meaning. He shakes his head and sits up. It's nothing to be offended about, like the word Mongoloid. His words hit me like a physical blow. I should have killed you in your sleep. I clutch the knife so tightly that my arm shakes. The fruit. Do you want any? I ask through gritted teeth. No thanks. He scratches his stomach absent-mindedly before swiping at his cheek. His fingers come away red with blood. Oh, he says, I must have scratched myself. 32. If George suspects anything, he doesn't show it. Over the next few days, he's his usual self. Loud, self-absorbed, rude. He doesn't notice that I watch him through slitted eyes, that my fingers twitch whenever he comes too close. Neither does my mother. The two of them are lost in their own little world of wedding planning. In 6 months, we'll be husband and wife, Oma says, clapping her hands together. She's thrilled. They've already booked the venue, and since it was expensive, Oma has promised George that she'll do everything she can to keep the rest of the costs low, including wearing her old wedding dress and making all the decorations by hand. After work, she has been visiting flower shops and craft stores, and as a result, she's exhausted, incapable of paying Ji-yoon or me any attention. In a way, it's a good thing. She's too preoccupied to see my unraveling. Ji-yoon, on the other hand, sees everything. She's suspicious of me, I can tell. Every time I turn around, I find her watching, her forehead wrinkled with worry. And whenever I'm alone, she finds some excuse to barge in. "Are you okay?" she asks, as though I am unwell and incapable of being by myself. "Yes," I say. It doesn't reassure her, not in the slightest. "Are you sure that you're okay?" she asks, "because I worry about you." "I'm fine. Please close the door." "You're not lying? You're being honest with me?" "For the last time, yes," I say, impatient. I want her to stop asking, to stop bothering me. And anyway, I'm not lying. Not really, anyway. What is the truth? The truth is that men like George seldom notice things unless they are directly involved in them. Men like him are stupid and oblivious, convinced of their own self-importance. That night, I could have stabbed him, dug the knife into his throat, and if I had told him it was an accident, he would have believed me. After all, why would he suspect docile, sweet, submissive Ji-won? What reason would I have for hurting him? Why would a woman, let alone an Asian woman, challenge his authority? George sees himself as an alpha male. In his mind, only another man could pose any kind of threat or challenge. That's why he behaves the way he does, ogling Ji-hyun and me and all the other women openly in front of my mother, treating us as though we are objects and not human beings. He does not fear her. He does not fear us. If anything, Oma is lucky that he chose her out of all the other Oriental women he could have chosen to save. Men like George aren't like us. Not like me, not like Ji-yoon, not even my father, another man, can compare, because George's power doesn't come only from the fact that he has a penis. It comes from his whiteness. For us, that kind of certainty and self-assuredness is an impossibility. We girls are taught from an early age that we are demonstrably inferior to our male counterparts. We are smaller, weaker, stupider. When we succeed, it's only because men allow us to. And as an Asian woman, we are foreign and especially powerless, with our supposedly porcelain skin, delicate physiques, slanted pussies, and quiet, submissive natures. As for my father, this country left him impotent, passive. In another world, with his education and determination, he could have been a lawyer or a doctor. Maybe then white men would have looked him in the eye and shook his hand firmly, with respect. But his inability to speak English diminished him, cut him down. How can you be an alpha male when you need your daughters to translate your bills for you, to make your doctor's appointments for you, to help you read the billboards on the side of the road? Back when Appa still had the dry cleaning business, I often saw him bow his head low in deference to men like George. Loud, mediocre white men, who had never once in their lives doubted themselves. My father didn't know how to deal with them. Once, when I was in high school, a tall Caucasian man stormed into the store clutching a crisp white shirt. There were brown stains splattered across the front, and he slammed it down on the counter where my father was waiting. "You ruined it," the man said. "How are you going to fix this?" He was calm, but there was a quiver in his tone that indicated he was ready to cause a scene. I stared at the shirt, confused. Appa was careful about his work, and there was no way he would have let it leave the building soiled like that. Surely there was a mistake. Surely he would explain this to the customer. But I watched as Appa tried to find the words in English, stammering, and at every turn the man smirked and giggled and ridiculed him until my poor father retreated back to the cash register and retrieved 5 crinkled, discolored $10 bills. His face flushed from the humiliation. He tried to smooth out the dirty cash on the counter, and avoiding eye contact, he handed it to the man. "By the way," said the man, his hand on the door handle, "you're in America now. You should have the decency to learn the language. If it's such a problem, go back to your own country." I hated him, but in that moment I hated my father too. I felt a terrible sense of shame, seeing the money clutched in the customer's hand and the dejected look on my father's face. How could he let me see him like that? How could he embarrass us so badly? But in a way, it was also a good thing, because it planted something deep within me, a seed of anger that grew, that made me watch and ponder and learn until I was strong enough to release my own rage. And if I could go back in time, I would pull my father aside and whisper in his ear, "Don't give him the money. He's full of shit. Lock the doors and call the police. I'll get the knife." A few months after that incident, I took Ji-yoon to a restaurant. Our parents were working late, and we were both feeling restless. We ordered a basket of French fries, the only thing on the menu we could afford, and people watched, making up stories about their lives. The woman sitting alone at the bar with a martini glass in hand had just caught her boyfriend of 3 years cheating. The two men, talking animatedly in a booth across from us, were brothers, separated at birth, reconnecting after spending decades apart. Ji-yoon giggled as I tried to pick out the features that I thought proved the two were linked, the similar bald patches on each of their heads, in the shape of Africa, the small pointed nose, the fat meaty earlobes that hung low, dangling as they laughed. She pointed at the chest hair peeking out just below the collars of their dress shirts. Then a man and a woman walked in, both Caucasian and obviously on a date, and we turned our attention to them. I nibbled at a fry, savoring it, the salt crystals melting on my tongue, watching as they sat down and began ordering food. Snippets of their conversation wafted over to us. It seemed to be going well at first, but then it hit a snag. "I don't agree with you," the man said. "Why would you need to work if I'm making enough to support the family? Your job is the home, having a baby. You know, the things that matter to women." He winked, and I could tell that he was trying to be funny. Instead of laughing, the woman scoffed. "The things that matter to women? Shouldn't children and supporting the family be the job of both men and women?" It was a joke. It wasn't very funny. In fact, you're not very funny. The man's voice rose and grew. louder and louder, until Ji-yoon and I could hear his every word. Remembering the incident with my father, I cringed. I imagined the man chastising the woman, publicly humiliating her. I was certain that she would back down and shrink like Appa had, that she would acquiesce to his badgering and give him the respect that white men demanded. I had assumed it to be the only option available to her. To my surprise, however, her expression flickered to one of contempt. Every time he tried to argue, to insult her, she looked him in the eye and laughed, and was so perfectly pleasant that it was obvious she had the upper hand. By the time the man finished ranting, he was flushed and sweating, and clearly embarrassed. He slapped a handful of bills onto the table and said, "What are you, some kind of feminist or something?" "Yes," she said, matter-of-factly, "I am." "Bitch," he muttered, before stalking off. She smirked as he walked away. Watching this was eye-opening to me. Not just the fact that the woman managed to do it, but how she did it. As later experiences would confirm, to deal with a man like that, a man like George, you have to pull the rug out from under him. Not all at once, of course. A small tug here, another one there. You don't back down when he tries to wield his power. Instead, you trip him up by slipping him little lies. Correct him whenever you can. Confuse him, make him feel foolish. Men like him hate being wrong, hate being embarrassed, hate not being in control. Men like him don't know what to do when that happens, and they resort to childish displays of anger, temper tantrums, sulking. In spite of this, he won't be able to do a single thing about it because, in the end, he's the one who is weak. The only power he has is the power you are willing to give him. And you have given him nothing, not a scrap. By the time you're done with him, he'll be begging for mercy. Who is he if he can't control you? Is he even a man anymore? It will seem like a relief when you give him a hand, even if that hand is holding a blade. And when you take everything from him, you can say what these men say about us. He was asking for it. He was begging for it. He must have wanted it since he didn't fight back. 33. In the middle of the night, I wake up with an unbearable hunger, so intense that I can hardly breathe. I sit up, blankets tangled between my legs, the mattress sagging under the combined weight of Ji-yoon's body and mine. The room is dark. I stand up, wobbling unsteadily on my feet. For once my movements wake my sister. She rolls over before sitting up next to me, her back flush against the wall, her expression sleepy and disoriented. "Where are you going?" she asks. "Nowhere," I say, gently. I pull the blankets over her chest. "Go back to sleep. I'll be right back." "I'll wait for you." "Okay." She doesn't know it yet, but in a few seconds, before I even close the door behind me, she will be fast asleep. It's so quiet tonight, and I can hear everything. The creak of the floor underneath my feet, the humming of the refrigerator, the hiss of the toilet. Somewhere next door, a neighbor is watching TV. On the kitchen counter, I find George's keys and wallet. He's careful about leaving them in the same place every day so he doesn't lose them, which makes everything easier. I open his bulging wallet and thumb through his money before slipping $100 bill into my pocket. I know he won't miss it. He still hasn't noticed the money I stole from him a few weeks ago. His keys, however, are another story. I want to take them, but tomorrow morning when he wakes up, he will notice their absence immediately. I toy with them, fighting with myself, and run my fingers over the jagged edges. Take them. After a few moments, I pick them up carefully so as to not make any sound and shove them in the back of the refrigerator behind the enormous half-empty jar of kimchi. They are only visible if you know where to look. I close the door and slip back into my room, back to Ji-yoon. As expected, she's snoring. To be completely honest, I've always wondered about the keys. Of course, Oma has given George a copy of one of our apartment, but besides that and the one to his truck, he carries around three additional keys. Two of them look like they could potentially open other apartments, and the third is for another car, a Toyota that I've never seen him drive. "What's with the Toyota key?" I asked one morning as we ate breakfast together. Ji-yoon, immediately interested, looked up from her plate. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw that Umma, who was in front of the stove, had turned as well. The movement was slight, but at the same time noticeable. Swiping at her brow, she poked at the bacon sizzling in the pan. The smell of burned meat lingered, oil dripping from George's lips as he swallowed the mouthful he was chewing. "That's a key to my old car. I never took it off," he says casually. "What about the house keys? Why do you have two house keys?" I asked. "This one is for my current apartment." He tapped it with his middle finger. "This one?" He paused, and I knew the next thing that would come out of his mouth was a lie. "This is for my old apartment." He took a swig of orange juice and set the glass down on the table. "Liar. You fucking phony." "It must get annoying carrying them around. I'll take them both off you," I said. "I don't mind." He dropped the keys into his lap so they were out of my reach. "It's okay. I like having it. There were a lot of good memories attached to my old place." I was going to ask him what those memories were, but at that exact moment, Ji-yoon butted in. "Will you still keep your apartment when you and Mom—" She gestured lamely. "Well, your mother wants me to move in permanently." Ji-yoon looked overwhelmed by the news. Seeing her expression, I felt very sorry. Not just for her, but for myself as well. Under the table, I found her hand and squeezed it. When I tried to remove it a moment later, she held on tightly and refused to let go. "You're messing with me, JW!" George screams. His voice cuts through my sleep, through my dreams. It reverberates and echoes off the walls. I try to open my eyes, but they are stuck together, glued shut. And when I attempt to lift my arm, my body refuses to listen. I feel George's breath hot on my ear. He's leaning down next to me, whispering, "I know what you did. I know what you've been thinking. I know. I know." I open my mouth to scream. Where is Ji-yoon? Where is Uma? George swirls and sneaks around me like a ghost, yelling, screaming, jabbing, whispering. I need to fight him. I need to kill him, but I can't move. Why won't you move? I strain every muscle in my body. With a sudden pop, I feel release. I bolt upright and am blinded by the whiteness of the room. I'm not in the apartment, I'm somewhere else. I shield myself from the brightness until the realization comes to me. I'm in the room filled with eyes. The one from my dream, except they are all gone. They are all gone. In their place, George stands, more demon than man, his teeth bared, and suddenly there is something hard and heavy in my hand. It's a knife. I close my eyes. When George rushes toward me, I thrust the knife up into his stomach, and I stab and stab and stab until his blood is gushing hotly over my hands. He's howling, but I keep going until white turns to red, until his body is heavy against mine, until he goes quiet. Then I slowly, methodically dig his eyes out from his head with the knife. I put each eyeball in my mouth and swallow it whole, optic nerves sliding down my throat like spaghetti noodles. Suddenly I sputter, choking on my breath, and I am awake with Ji-yoon in bed beside me. I am crying in relief that I am alive and that I haven't killed anyone, and that George is next door sleeping by my mother's side. 34. Where the fuck are my keys? George hollers. Has anyone seen them? He has been tearing apart the apartment all morning. I hide my smirk as I watch him root through his briefcase before dropping to the ground on all fours. Crawl, you pathetic cockroach, crawl. Honey, please don't swear in front of the girls. I'm not, okay? I just want to know where my keys are. He goes to the jacket hanging behind the door and shoves his hands into the pockets. Finding nothing, he swears again. Fuck! Why don't you take my car today? Oma says. She's getting ready for work and brushing her hair back. Jiwon doesn't need it, and I'm sure someone will be here to let you in later. No, he splutters. It's not about the car. What's it about then? I ask. Do you need the other keys? He has fallen into my trap and we both know it. I have a meeting with a client this afternoon, he says, picking his words with a caution he hasn't demonstrated before. My stuff is at the other apartment. Reports, data, that kind of thing. But I thought you moved everything out because of the flooding. Not all of it, he snaps. Stop being such a smartass, JW. It's not funny. I'm not, I'm just trying to help. You can use our printer and make new copies, I offer. I can't. He crosses his arms and glares at me through the narrowed eyes. They are so blue today. I keep pushing. Well, why not? What would happen if I keep poking and prodding? Would he explode? I imagine his head erupting from his shoulders, our apartment showered in bits of brain and blood. Two blue, beautiful eyeballs falling, one after the other, right into my little lap. Fine, George throws his hands up in the air. I'll print out my report here and I'll take the car. But when I come back, I want everyone, and I mean everyone. He jabs his finger in my direction to help me find the keys. No excuses, got it? And if someone has lost it, he jabs the finger at me again. There will be hell to pay. When Oma takes out the kimchi that evening to make kimchi jjigae, she gives a shout of surprise. George, I found your keys. He emerges from the bedroom huffing and puffing. He has been pushing the furniture around for the last hour. Where were they? He asks, snatching the keys from her. They are cold. Oma covers her mouth with her hand. Honey, they were in the refrigerator behind the kimchi. Did you leave them there? She's laughing, and behind George's back, Jiyun and I are snickering loudly too. He knows because his ears are growing redder by the second. I would never do such a stupid thing. Someone else must have done it. We didn't do that, I say, giggling. It was you. Yeah, Jiyun crows. It was definitely you. Don't try to blame us. For once, George is silent. He's trying to remember, but his memory is fuzzy. We have made a fool of him. Or is it that he's made a fool of himself? Oma returns her focus to the jar of kimchi, ladling its contents into the stone pot on the stove. Ji-yoon walks into the bathroom and closes the door, and George remains, frozen, his fists curled at his sides, his forehead creased in concentration. Nobody is paying attention to him, and he turns and makes a silent retreat. Now you can do whatever it is that you do at your other apartment, I say, softly. I can't tell if he hears me. If he does, he doesn't turn around. 35. Time flies, and my second quarter rapidly comes to an end. The threat of expulsion has ignited a fire under me, and in spite of everything, the lack of sleep, the nightmares, I am doing better in my classes. In Asian American Studies, I have an A minus. In History and Statistics, I have B's. And in Psychology, I have a B minus. If I can keep it together for my finals, I will be taken off academic probation. Geoffrey has attempted to text me on numerous occasions since the chopsticks incident. I've mostly ignored him or responded with curt, one-word replies, which seems to offend him. Did you like my cat picture? Sure. Come on, that's not a real answer, he writes back. I can almost imagine his whiny tone, and I put my phone away, annoyed. In class, he sits next to me, invading my space. I can't believe it took me this long to notice what a screw-up he is. He's abrasive, pushy, and irritating. His quips about feminism are just showboating, an attempt to make himself appear better than other men. His shirts are stupid. The final will be composed of 100 multiple-choice questions, Professor Thompson says. I'll be uploading a list of all potential topics that will be covered tonight. Be warned, it's a lot. The class groans. From the chair to my right, Alexis prods me. Did I hear her right? 100? Ugh, yes. I don't have room in my brain for the answers to 100 questions. Me neither. I'm scared. I put my head in my hands. I really need to pass this class, or I'm screwed. It'll be fine. We'll get together to study this weekend. By the end of it, the final will be afraid of us, not the other way around. I peek at Alexis through my fingers. And if I fail? Stop that, she says, scolding me. You won't fail. You're one of the smartest people I know. I've been talking to some of the other people in class, and they're open to meeting for a study group too. I'm thinking Saturday at 6. Is that cool with you? I'm grateful for her and sad to leave when we get to the door. As usual, she gives me a quick hug, her sweet perfume lingering around me. Saturday at 6, I repeat, inhaling until I grow dizzy. I missed the bus this morning and George reluctantly agreed to drive Oma to work so that I could take the car. Unsurprisingly, he complained the entire time. Can't you take a taxi? I'm so busy, he whined. With every step I take, I catch a whiff of Alexis's scent, which lingers on my clothing. I'm so lost in my thoughts of her that I don't notice the rapid footsteps behind me until I reach the parking lot. I stop abruptly. The footsteps stop too. It's late in the afternoon. The sun is casting long shadows over the ground. My heart pounds, stuttering through each beat. I plunge my hand into my bag and search for the knife. My fingers brush against the smooth handle and I grasp it desperately. Who are you? Why are you following me? I gasp, whirling around. There's nobody there again. Breathing heavily, I scan the lot, searching for some indication that I'm not crazy, that I'm not seeing things. Was I being followed? Or did I imagine the whole thing? There are a few people milling about, but they are far away. I'm about to get in my car when I see a sudden flash of movement. I whip around just in time to see someone scurry away. I sprint over, but I'm too late. I stand in front of the bush, quivering. You are imagining things again, G1,